Minister, this residential tenancies bill is, for the most part, a deception and a fraud. It is an attempt to suggest that the government is trying to protect tenants in the midst of the COVID pandemic, when in reality, apart from a tiny cohort of tenants for which protections will be extended, literally a few hundred tenants, the government's real intention is, as of April the 5th, to allow vulture funds and landlords to evict people in the midst of a pandemic, purely on the grounds that the 5-kilometre rule has changed. And that simple fact, it seems to escape Deputy McAuliffe, it seems to escape the Minister, despite the fact that I've repeatedly cited the example for 4 years now, including on multiple occasions with the current Minister, the example of St Helens Court in Dún Laoghaire. But it is just one example of what happens when tenants are persecuted for profit by vulture funds, and the failure of your government and successive governments to put in place protections for those tenants who have not done anything wrong. They have not committed antisocial behaviour, they have always paid their rent, but they've simply had the misfortune to live in an apartment complex, many of them up to 20 years, which was unloaded by NAMA into the hands of one vulture fund and then another vulture fund, as many properties across this city and across the country have been. And these vulture funds have persecuted the tenants for profit, no other reason. First of all, trying to put up the rent by 60%, failing to do that. Then trying to evict those tenants and families on the grounds of substantial refurbishment, when of course there was no need to evict them to refurbish the places. Then trying to evict them en masse. 10 had been effectively driven out over 2 years, persecuted through anxiety and hardship. They then tried to evict the remaining 10. Luckily, they ran foul of the Tyrrellstown Amendment, and then literally weeks later, the vulture fund comes back and says, oh, we can't evict 10 because of the Tyrrellstown Amendment, so we'll evict 8. As if anybody believes the other 2 aren't following immediately afterwards, when they've tried to evict them all on 2 previous occasions before that. I went to the PRTB with those residents on multiple occasions, and the barrister representing Mill Street Projects, the vulture fund that is evicting them, said, this is ugly, this isn't very pleasant, but our owner has to maximise the value of the property. And consequently, they have sat on 10 empty apartments from the apartments that they managed to drive the other tenants out through sheer anxiety for 2 years sitting empty. And as of April the 5th, those tenants will have 10 days before they are evicted in the midst of a pandemic. And this bill says in its preamble that it's about not wanting to worsen the public health situation, and that evictions could contribute negatively to the transmission of COVID-19. Of course it could. Absolutely, that's right. Because these people will be knocking, in fact are knocking on the door, Dún Laoghaire at Down County Council, and engaging with homeless services now. Families, individuals, pensioners and so on. But you're not protecting them. That's what you should be doing. Or thousands of others like them. What, because the 5-kilometre rule is lifted, it's going to be easier for them to locate alternative accommodation anywhere in South Dublin, or even down to Wicklow, or even down to Wexford, at the rents that they were currently paying, which are in approximately €1,000. High rents, but what will the rent go up to? Average rents in our area, 2,000, 2,200. Where are they going to get somewhere to live? Okay, so your failure to protect them and many other tenants like them. So you're not extending the protections. So we have amendments to your bill that are asking you extend these COVID-related protections to all tenants who could face eviction through no fault of their own until April 2022, because we have no idea when this pandemic is actually going to be finished, particularly given the mess up of the vaccine rollout you're making. Give them that protection, but beyond that, and in the intervening period, start to actually protect tenants full stop. Why should a vulture fund, under any circumstances, be able to evict people just because they want to increase the value of the property? They simply shouldn't. Tenants should have security of tenure. They can sell the property with the tenants in situ. There is no reason. That is standard practice across Europe, or indeed if they have to refurbish them. This government just isn't willing to protect tenants because they have courted, they have facilitated, they have encouraged vulture funds and people who want to make profit out of property regardless of the human consequences to the people who live in those properties. And it is absolutely disgusting, quite frankly, the stress and the pressure that the residents in St Helens Court have undergone for 4 years at the hands of these vicious, ruthless, inhumane, profit-driven entities who do not give a damn about human beings. And I have asked again and again, your government, previous governments, will you protect tenants like these? And you simply will not do it. It is absolutely enraging. Enraging, and then you have the cheek to come in and suggest that this bill is protecting any significant cohort. Yes, a few hundred who can get through the hoops of showing that they have directly COVID-related income loss and on a PUP may get the protection, but the vast majority of people who could face eviction will not get any protection from this bill and potentially are thrown to the wolves on April the 5th.